So I finally got to sit down and see Dark Phoenix. Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. I got to go see this with my kids. We watched all the original films, save for the Wolverine, Logan, and the two Deadpool movies because those are all too adult for them. But we watched the other seven together right before this. I was actually going to review each one of them individually, but I just couldn't do it. I took notes for all of them and everything, and I was ready to do it, but the time got away from me. I've seen this. I want to talk about this now, and I'm not going to backtrack and do those. But I did have a good time going back and revisiting every single one of them. I know that there's a lot of hate for The Last Stand, X-Men Origins, Wolverine, and Apocalypse. I still really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the shit out of Apocalypse. I don't really see the hate there. I see I see the problems like people have with it, but I don't personally see them when I watch the movie, so I don't know what to say about that. Wolverine, the Origins movie, it's got some dumb stuff in it, for sure, but I think it has a lot of cool stuff in it as well, so overall, it kind of evens out for me as a fine movie. And Last Stand, I think there's a lot of good stuff in Last Stand, so I'm a big fan of the franchise as a whole. I think that throughout both generations, the original trilogy generation with Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, and the newer generation with Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy and Jennifer Lawrence and Nicholas Hoult and all these, the list goes on and on. I mean, the casting in this franchise is some of the best ever in any film to me, and especially like franchise. I just think the casting is so fantastic on both sides of the franchise, whether it be the originals or the newcomers. But yeah, as usual, I'm completely against the grain here. I'm going against the general consensus, which the general consensus on this movie is meh, or not good at all, or hate it, or whatever. I loved it. I thought that this movie was dark and serious, and I felt like it earned it all, and I loved the exploration of certain characters. I loved the use of characters. Sophie Turner taking over here as Jean Grey. I really liked her performance in this. I really liked where they took the Phoenix. I thought this was leagues better, like leaps and bounds better than Last Stand. And I liked Last Stand. A lot of people hated it, and I've seen people who are like, well, at least we still have The Last Stand. I hated that, but I hate this even more. What? Come on. No way. And that's coming from someone who actually thought Last Stand was fine. This is way better than Last Stand. Yeah, I don't get that at all. I thought everyone was fantastic here. I thought Michael Fassbender, as usual, is freaking fabulous. I thought James McAvoy kills it yet again as Professor X. I love the use of Beast, Nightcrawler. There's some characters that don't get a lot of screen time. Oh, I thought Storm was used super well here. This is my favorite. This is my favorite Storm. In fact, this is probably my favorite use of the mutants' powers in the X-Men franchise. There was a battle scene at the end on a train, and I thought that this was the best view and the best use of Magneto's powers, Nightcrawler's powers, Storm's powers by far for me. Loved the use of Storm in this scene. Cyclops, all of our all the main characters in this film, we get to see them get dark with their powers and go full force with them. And I just loved it. I know that people are kind of just MCU crazy, and I love the MCU. I thought Endgame was, arguably the best comic book movie I ever damn saw in my life. So I'm not getting down on the MCU by any means. But I think people are so used to the MCU's kind of lighter tone, and that there's such an aversion to something like the Justice League dark broody tone, that when they see a movie like this, it almost, suffers by proxy in a way, like that it's in that same tonality. But I thought this movie was such a great send-off. I thought this movie was such a good conclusion to the franchise. Man, I really don't have almost any complaints about the film, honestly. I'm one of those people, and I've said this before. It's just like, if you never heard anyone else's opinion, your opinion would just be untouched. Like, you walk out of a movie and you loved it, that would be that. You know, there wouldn't be this general consensus looming. You know, if you're somebody who loved the new Game of Thrones season, it wouldn't matter that so many other people hated it so much. You wouldn't even, you'd just be like, that was good, and that's that. And that's just part of being a film lover, and that's part of being in the film community and talking to people, is you have to deal with others' opinions, which is fine. Other people should be allowed to have their opinions 100%, and I respect those opinions. But that doesn't mean I'm going to agree with them all the time. I'm my own person, and I mean that in every sense of the way. When it comes to my opinion, I do not let anything else influence me at all for any reason. I don't care what critics say. I don't care what my friends say. I don't care what anyone thinks. When it really comes down to it, in the end, my opinion is king to me, and I loved this movie. And so I don't know how much influence other people's opinions and the general consensus has on people. But for some reason, to me, it always feels very overwhelming. But it could just be that I have shitty taste, and almost by definition I do. It's the general consensus is this way, and I'm usually opposed to it. I guess technically I do, but I can't change the way I feel, and nor do I want to, because if I did, I wouldn't love this movie, and that would be a shame, because this movie is cool as shit. There's lots of great things going on here. It's sad to see this franchise go like this. Yes, I'm sure the MCU will reboot it, and I'm sure I'll love it, because Kevin Feige and the guys over at Marvel Studios right now, they're just on a roll, and they can't seem to do any wrong, and I have no doubt they're going to cast an amazing Wolverine and Professor X and all these amazing people, and the story will be great and whatever. But for now, I'm going to, mourn the loss of this franchise for now, because it's been here for a long time. A long time. Over, 20 years now? It's a long time. I remember seeing the original X-Men in theaters. I remember seeing X-Men 2. Oh man, that was a big deal, because X-Men 2, that was like one of the first comic book movies that blew me away when I saw it then. When I went back and rewatched it now, it doesn't hold a candle to a lot of the stuff coming out today, because today we just have these incredible blockbusters with these, lavish, impossible situations you never thought you could possibly see on screen, but now we can. But X-Men 2 is still a fun watch. All of these were fun watches, and it's, this is the end of an era. And it's sad to see it go, but I felt like this was a great send-off. And it bums me out that yet another franchise closes out and people are displeased. Just recently happened with Game of Thrones. People were very displeased, and now that's a stain on the franchise. People, if you bring up Game of Thrones now, they're like, oh, even though the majority of those people love the first 6 seasons or so, maybe even 7 seasons. Now it's like Game of Thrones. Bleh. I got shit for wearing a Game of Thrones shirt recently on my channel. Like, oh my god, your opinion is garbage if you're still wearing a Game of Thrones shirt. And I'm like, the whole franchise is dead now? The books, the other seasons that you loved, they all suck now because of one season you didn't like? That's some petty shit. And so when you have entries like this, especially when it's the end of a franchise, when it's the end of a show, like a series, or if it's the end of a movie series or whatever, the ending is so important. And since this will be, unless you count the New Mutants, which I don't know if that thing will ever get released, and if it does, that's not truly an X-Men film. I don't even count Deadpool, really, or Logan as true X-Men movies. They kind of are. There's definitely connections for sure, but with X-Men in the title at least, although technically this movie doesn't have X-Men in the title, you know what I'm getting at. But this is the end, and it's a shame that this is being so panned, that this is being so hated on, because I really do think this is a great flick. I think I loved it. I mean, I'm not going to I feel like I'm just kind of going all over the place at this point. Yeah, it bums me out. You can tell. Like, I'm not like super enthused, even though I just came out of a movie I love, which is stupid. I should fucking just pep myself up. But it's the way I feel. If you're on the fence about this one, and I don't think it's anything like Apocalypse, but I think that if you're a fan of the X-Men franchise as a whole, you're gonna really enjoy this. I think if you're somebody who's like, yeah, Last Stand wasn't bad and Apocalypse was totally fine, like I enjoyed that, I think you're gonna love this. If you're someone who's like, I hated Last Stand, I hated Apocalypse, I hated Origins Wolverine, like if you hated all those movies, or you're the ones that's on the side of like, I hate the entries that everyone else hates, you're probably gonna fall in line with the masses here and either feel meh or not good about this one. But yeah, if you're a fan of the franchise, if you're a fan of Jean Grey's character, Magneto's character, oh my God, has Eric Lesher had the freaking greatest arc throughout these movies? I think he is one of the most compelling villains. Michael Fassbender is amazing. What they did with his character in all 4 of these movies, that whole arc that they created him, I thought it finished out super well. Man, you get to see Magneto wrecking shit, and it's amazing. I loved the use of his powers here. I loved the use of his emotions here. I loved the use of the other films to draw off of from his, intentions and his involvement. I don't get it, but that's typical for me. So anyway, guys, let me know what you thought. If you saw it, I know Robbie and Keen are with me on this. I don't know how many other people loved it, but we did, and we're just gonna have a little celebration party, just the 3 of us, and all you guys can go hate on it. Oh well. All right, guys. Adios and happy Father's Day to all you.